Al has been a friend of EduFuturists for many years now, which we are really, really thankful for. And he is the chair of a multi-academy trust in Peterborough. He sits on the Regional Schools Commissioners Head Teachers Board for the East of England and North London, and is an East of England apprenticeship ambassador. Al has been involved in educational technology for 30 years. He's managing director of Net Support, one of our partners for today, and was recognized in the 2020 EdTech 50. So let's bring on Al Kingsley. Hi, Al.
Hello. Hi there. I thought I'd be super tech today and have slides and video all in one.
Wow. Look at that.
Now you can see why I'm wearing the orange tie, you see.
Yes.
Good to see you, gents.
Yeah, you too. How's things? Have you been busy? Has it been quiet during lockdown?
It's been fairly busy from a business point of view. Lots of things to adapt, like most things, reflecting for the future. Lots of school activity, but everyone's fit and healthy, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. And you're in your talk, you're going to go into kind of that, looking at the first steps in terms of a digital strategy. I know you've been really busy over the last few months putting that together, haven't you?
We've done lots on digital strategy. Both myself and Mark Anderson have been publishing a guide, which I might mention, but also what we've been doing within schools. But I think we're all reflecting and adapting at the moment, so it's a very opportune time to share a few thoughts.
That's brilliant, and we're looking forward to hearing what you've got to say. So we'll hand over to you, Al. Yeah, take it away.
Thank you very much. Well, hi everybody. Pleasure to be here. Really looking forward to sharing very briefly, quick 10-minute whiz through on a few sort of first concrete steps for a digital strategy. And so I kind of start with sometimes you absolutely have to look forward in order to you have to look backwards as well as forwards when you're reflecting on what you do. And we've certainly found, and I'm sure it will resonate with many of the people listening today, that solutions are rarely effective if your starting point is simply a desire to add something to your setup. And actually the best schools, the best digital world is about being reflective. And so we always start with recommending, let's kind of ask those core questions, what's worked well so far? Have you reviewed what and seen what's been sustainable and embedded within the school? Do you know where your collective digital skills lie within your teaching staff and support staff? Have you undertaken regular survey? Now's a great time to do a fresh recap with staff about their confidence in digital skills. Are you clear on what aspects are most relevant to help support your school development plan? So really it's about stopping and reflecting and knowing what's worked well already and how you can build on that, rather than necessarily a race to simply add more. Get a grip. And get a grip resonates often in many regards, but how do you get a grip? I would always argue, and it's kind of core to any kind of strategy or plan, is look to see and understand what EdTech you already have. What IT devices and types of devices have you got? Where are they? Are they effectively deployed? And part of that is how often are they used? Could they be better deployed elsewhere? And as you go through a journey of identifying what you've got, the technology you use, what software's on it, it makes it easier to make decisions about acquisition of additional technology if you've got some evidence of benefit and impact of what you've already got. There's also a point that whenever anybody talks about a strategy, people start thinking about how much is that going to cost. But actually reflecting on what you've got and where it's deployed, what software you're subscribed to and perhaps aren't now using as regularly as you thought, are actually ways that you can leverage economies of scale and save money first before you have to think about the cost of moving on. And then, of course, alongside that, and network managers around the world will resonate with this, is what infrastructure have we got? Have we got the right infrastructure, whether it's the traditional Wi-Fi or storage, to actually build further by adding technology to our IT estate across the trust? So ironically, the more we know what we have and what perhaps isn't used effectively, the more we can actually save those costs to provide flexibility when we want to start thinking about moving forward. This is a Venn diagram that we always like to share, and I think it kind of sets the priorities and what feeds into developing any kind of strategy. And as the good Vanilla Ice says there, stop, collaborate and listen. And collaboration is always key. The Venn diagram really reflects that any start of planning at its heart has got to be about teachers and students. But around that teachers and students, we want feed in from the senior leadership team about the school development plan and how that aligns. We want the network manager and IT team to be at the heart of that conversation. We need to be considering, particularly recently, with schools looking to adapt and try new tools, to make sure we're in line with our data privacy, making sure that we're considering our SEND cohort and the tools to make sure they're accessible to all. Topic that's just been raised in the last award, but of course key, is about our safeguarding role, making sure as we move things online that safeguarding and the appropriate measures are in place. That aligns, of course, with digital citizenship. But where appropriate, our trustees and governors are involved in the process to provide some challenge. How are we going to measure impact moving this forward? Training and CPD sits at the top, and that's often the biggest barrier, frankly. Time and resources allocated to technology, but perhaps in equal measure needs to be allocated to providing the training and support for staff. And I chose to mention it last for a reason, which is finance. And that's because I believe in many schools, the driver often for any additional technology starts with the finance department discussing the amount of funds that are available. And actually, from a strategy point of view, that shouldn't be the way around it is. We need to first reflect on what do we need and why, and how will it benefit our teaching and pedagogy. And finance often just shapes the pace at which we can arrive at that endpoint. But those are all the stakeholders to consider as part of that strategy. And then it's about priorities over convenience, getting those priorities at the top right, making sure that what we're discussing is pedagogy focus, aligned with the school development plan, realistic with capacity, and that's often a challenge. We can all probably think of 100 things we'd like to do, but we've got to prioritize those things and make sure that we focus on the core items. Are the things we're doing sustainable? We don't want to invest in things that we can't maintain, nor do we want to invest in things where only one member of staff has the competence or skills to actually lead on that. And then really, it's that simple thing about impact, impact, impact. Or as Ofsted would say, get your intention right, then think about your implementation, and then how do you manage the impact. Confidence is king. I think we'll all probably agree with that, particularly when it comes to the use of technology. And I'd argue that my digital strategy vision starts very much with CPD and confidence in using the tools that are already available. You can think of the sort of Sylvia Duckworth model of teachers or any staff in a school often start off in that survival mode with technology. Will it work? Will it be okay this time? And then they move to mastery, impact, and ultimately the thing we all aspire to, which is innovation. So making sure that the conversation involves the cost and the time allocated for really strong CPD across the key apps, and making sure we have flag bearers. And that's really about embedding whatever tools we're using, that there's more than one person, there's different people around the school who can be the go-to person for whatever the conversation or topic is that you need support on. Communication is the key. Well, I think we've probably all learned that COVID-19 has really highlighted the need for effective communication. And the first one on my list would be about internally between leadership and staff. And it surprised me in many ways that many of the staff across my trust often reference the use of new tools, particularly things like Teams, that actually utilize that and have greater communication and collaboration with their peers than they had the time to do when in school. So building on that communication between leadership and staff. Then there's the staff to student comms, making sure we build on those things. How the school can develop its comms with communication with its parents and its community, something we all try and do with our hard to reach families, but looking at the ways that technology can make potentially bridge some of those gaps, making sure it's cohesive and planned and not a mismatch on different tools and platforms. And again, harking back to one of the most important strands, particularly post-COVID, is have we built on the well-being benefits, utilising that not only when children are remote, but how tech can help with that, what will be a challenging time for a few months to bring young people back into the school environment, supporting our SEND children. And then making sure we've got the right communication package as a whole. A bit like the field of dreams, build it and they will come. If you put tools in and people are confident using it, then they'll become established and well maintained. EdTech is not the solution. Now, if I stop there, we might have a problem today. But if I continue, it's not the solution, it's the facilitator, the supporter, the empowerer. And hopefully at that point, we get broader agreement. Some would say it's not the solution, and I'd suggest that means they're really missing the point. It is absolutely the support or the tools that can be sitting and underpinning the key strands of teacher support, pedagogy, communication, well-being, and beyond. And if we think of it as being the facilitator rather than the solution, I think it changes the mindset, and that's key. So a vision for a school for a digital world, looking at digital strategy, my kind of list would work down along the lines of saying, start at the top, pedagogy and experience and outcomes first comes first. And experience is an important one to me, because I think this technology can provide broader experiences that don't necessarily immediately align with the black and white curriculum assessment, but it is about experience and engagement with young people. EdTech shouldn't become the daily discussion, but become an integral part of the school day. It sits there underlying. EdTech is used where appropriate, but it's not forced into each and every setting. Teachers have confidence to use the tools, but also teachers have the confidence to try new tools. And also key, I think, when we start thinking about broader MAT structures, is that middle leaders are also empowered to innovate with technology. A topic I raised as part of the Venn diagram then is that IT managers are at the heart of the digital discussions, not simply informed of the outcomes. Again, that co-production is the key when it comes to a digital strategy. Students are taught and encouraged to be confident digital citizens, never more pressing and urgent than now, making sure that our young people are not only confident online, but understand the risks, and also, just as important, how to assess and evaluate the validity of the information they consume. Making sure that everything we do, we have appropriate safeguarding at the heart of those decisions, and we take steps wherever possible to mitigate the digital divide. Some of those factors are in the control of schools and trusts, others regrettably aren't. But the more we can be aware of that, and within our strategy provide flexibility in the deployment of our tools to support those families and young people that don't have access to the same technology, then always the better. And the one that I always like to slip in as part of my kind of vision for digital strategy is about the fact that taking risks where appropriate should be supported. At some point, you've got to try new things and have confidence that they might work, but if they don't, we might learn as much from that. And most importantly, where we acknowledge one size doesn't fit all. Different devices and different software will be appropriate for different subjects and settings. And trying to squeeze that one size fits all model across the school or trust is never going to be, I believe, as effective. I slipped in a Bananarama quote, largely because of Mr. Anderson, who I nicked it from. It ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. It's one of his favourite phrases. And of course, as you know, we co-authored the digital strategy guide we produced. But of course, it resonates with everybody. It is true that sometimes it is more about how you go about something than the actual specifics. And that confidence to be adaptable and be flexible to suit your environment, I believe, is absolutely key. Less is more. Unless it's chocolate, obviously. My number one piece of advice is always don't try and do too much too quickly. It's quite inspiring to sit down and think about all the things you could consume within your digital strategy, all the things you'd like to change. But the reality is it's easy to build a list, but it's much harder to set the reasonable timescales and expectations. And this is on top of all the other things that are the daily life of educators. So for me, I think it's about have confidence about doing sustainable things. Pick a small number of things that you can implement and have a chance of succeeding at. And ultimately, it is quality over quantity, because if you achieve a certain number of steps early on as part of your digital strategy and they become embedded and have positive impact, it will provide motivation and confidence to move things forward. A cohesive digital strategy. Well, it's something I love to talk about, and I'm not alone. Many of the people online today I know share that view. The nice thing is we all have different views of what a digital strategy looks like. So call it what you will, but I think you have to have a strategy as part of your digital revolution, the thing we're talking about today. So one which is where absolutely it's student and teacher focused, pedagogy at its heart, where all stakeholders in the school have a voice, where it is stronger for co-production. That's the key to making sure it will become sustainable and move forward, has clear focus and priorities. And once again, it's realistic. Don't need to set timescales for everything, set ambition and recognize it's a living strategy. Just like we've seen over the last 3 or 4 months, a digital strategy shouldn't be a lockdown of these are the steps we're going to do for the next 5 years. There should be a pathway that will be considered, reflected on and adapted as we move forward. And then to round it off, as we're on the sponsors today, I just wanted to share why NetSupport continues working and supporting events with EduFuturists. Many of you, I hope, will know that co-production is at the heart of what we do at NetSupport. We deliver education-focused technology, but it's very much built around adapting to the school community. And that's why we try and support many events and platforms to give educators a voice to work alongside the EdTech space. Ben, Dan and Stephen and the gang at EduFuturists, as everybody here knows, are very outward looking and do the same thing, provide a platform for sharing best practice and learning. And that's why we're part of being that very small, journey on the way. Final thing I wanted to share, I could not, is just really a quick highlight about what we're all about. Net Support, we're embedded at every level of school IT, and we try to be engaged at every level of the education community. And many of us within the organisation spend as much of our time working in education as we do within the core IT business. The little diagram I've shared there is just to show that we offer a range of solutions from that outward management of a school IT estate, so you know what you've got and you can monitor and manage it, through to school communication, classroom and cloud-based teaching platforms, assessment tools, and pull them all together so that we're there to support everybody's digital strategy. And as Warner Brothers or somebody would probably say, for me, that's all, folks. It's a very quick whistle-stop highlight about ideas for digital strategy and some of the things I feel passionately we should focus on. I've also provided a little link there to schooldigitalstrategy.com, where you can download the free guide that Mark and I produced and released a couple of weeks ago. I hope it's going to be an amazing day. There's some fantastic speakers that I'm looking forward to listening to, and there's some great awards up for winning. So have a fantastic day, everybody, and thank you.
You're on mute, Ben.
Yes, that was my turn. You did it first. I've done it now. I thought I was going to get away with doing it today. Thanks, Al, so much for that. I think more than anything, actually, I think it's worth us noticing here, and this is just me being a bit soppy or whatever. It's a thank you to you, not just for the stuff you're doing, the strategy stuff you're doing, all the work, the great stuff you're doing in Net Support. It's that you get behind us, and I know there's loads of people in the channel who will be able to attribute to that as well. Just say he gets behind us, he champions us, he helps us out, and you've been a good friend to us at EduFuturists, as well as me personally as well. So thank you so much for that, and thank you for championing the pack. You've done that consistently, so thank you for that. There's some brilliant questions. There's some brilliant questions and comments in the chat as well, and there's one from a good friend of the podcast and a good friend of ours, Mr. John Neal, from 1025. I'm just going back up to get it. And he said this, and I think it's worth us talking about now. I just feel that any discussion over catching up, because we talked about this idea about catching up and getting back into school about strategy, ultimately brings us back to discussion about exam results. Do you think, Al, about we should be starting from a different place?
I think there is an element of that consideration. I mean, I get slightly nervous when I hear the schools talking about September and that starting point of catch-up. And actually, for many, the first few months, the focus is really about getting young people back into being comfortable back in school. For many, it's about reteaching and relearning, getting into that mindset of how to learn again. And I do think we have to reassess where we sit on that. I think there is a real challenge that we just assume come September, things just click into a new way of doing things. And I think we need to recognise that there is going to be time to get young people back on board, get confident in their learning. And that's key as well, to make sure that we're treating everyone the same. We mentioned about the digital divide. Well, there is an element that different learners are going to need more support, so we can try and give them the opportunities they deserve to get back up to speed. And it's a shame in a way that the first conversation is about exams next year and not about how we get people, young people back into education, confident and happy learners. So I think we're going to have to reflect and be realistic about it.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, Al, thank you so much for sharing with us today. Hopefully you can stay with us for the rest of the day, and you're going to be joining us right at the end, because you're going to be presenting the Net Support EduFuturist of the Year Award. Yeah?
Really looking forward to that. Well, I'm looking forward to the whole day, but yes, what a lovely way to end the day as well. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, Al. Just to let you know, John, you are the winner of the first hoodie and t-shirt for provoking a conversation that I think got going as well. So well done, John. We'll be there. Thanks, Al. Thanks for joining us.
Take care, folks.
Cheers.